Croft is the setting for the 6th Great and British Dunlop Motorsport Festival of 2007. The Croft circuit is a former World War II RAF base and a lap is just over 2 miles long.
Magic people, voodoo people.
Glorious sunshine and a dozen or so SR4s itching to get away, and there they go, at least everyone except Nick Adcock, who clearly has a problem, and the frustration is plain to see. Well, it's Rob Weldon who leads, Daniel Rowbottom second, third is Jeremy Ferguson, Toby Newton's in there as well as they all make it safely around turn 1. Oh no, they don't. Terence Woodward's a spinner. Everyone takes avoiding action. Through the chicane go these ultra-quick, super-rapid SR4s. No joy for Nick Adcock, who's wheeled away. The inquest will now begin into what prevented him from moving. 88 is Terence Woodward, who's been struggling down the order, and now he's being passed by Mitch Millett. And it looks like a pit stop for Woodward. Indeed it is. Lap 7, definitely a 2-horse race. It's been led from the start by Rob Weldon, but that may change as they go into Tower. We're virtually side by side now. Who will exit in front? It's Rowbottom who gets on the power and takes over at the front. So we have a new race leader, but can he hold on? Weldon's in a good position should he wish to strike, but no let up from Rowbottom, who keeps the power on through this double apex 180-degree section. Both drivers avoid the second curb, which is important if you're going to maintain your momentum on this part of the track. And of course, it's now a very, very big gap back to third place. That's Terence Woodward, no doubt reflecting on what went wrong and how to put it right for race 2. Here's the battle for 4th. Toby Newton in car 15, John Hewitt in 23, still at it, hammer and tong, and at times it's been more like an old-fashioned shootout between these two, but they're still relatively unscathed. Newton, the 17-year-old but greatly experienced racer, always quick and part of the front runners, no matter what discipline he's taking part in. While John Hewitt leads the series, it's been a good campaign for him. His first radical wins at Snetterton at the start of the season, plus a superb victory in the Belgian round at Spa-Francorchamps a couple of months ago. So he's looking good points-wise in this race. There's the stricken SR4 of Ross Allen. Was in 6th, but that's gone, and he too must now start planning for race 2 later today. Daniel Rowbottom continues to grind out a few hundredths of a second here and there on Rob Weldon. And with just a couple more corners to go, he's odds on to take his second ever Radical SR4 sports car victory at Croft. Almost a year to the day since he bagged his first one. It's a habit he's continued as well last year. Once he won one, he kept getting more. And I suspect tyre conservation played its part then. Usually a subtle race 1 was followed by a blistering race 2 win, but that's not the case this time. He takes the flag in race 1 ahead of Rob Weldon. A very convincing drive from Rowbottom, who also posts the fastest lap of the race. This is how it finished then, and it was a tale of 2 drivers. No one close enough to Rob Weldon and Daniel Rowbottom. However, it's Jeremy Ferguson who gets the full complement of championship points.
We made a slight change to the car, so I had to wait for the car to come in. Followed Rob to see where he was weak, and then we made an opportunity when he made a mistake. So, you know, made a good one of a bad one, if you like, but not for me, for him. So it was good.
We should get away any second. Indeed we do, but Nick Adcock in car 11's going nowhere. Everyone is away cleanly. Thankfully, they've all managed to avoid him as they head down to Clervaux for the first time. But an unfortunate start for Nick Adcock. The unfortunate Nick Adcock, second race in a row he's failed to start, and there seems to be a problem moving him. This could mean a red flag. 26 is Andrew Ferguson. He's off at the first turn and he's going nowhere. And it is a red flag, which means no one's going anywhere just yet. Here's what happened to Ferguson. And 2 into 1 doesn't go as he and Mitch Millett collide. It's definitely Ferguson who's come off worse. The disconsolate Adcock is wheeled away. 2 races, 2 did not start. So we're going to have to go all over again. Let's hope for better things this time as they roar off the line, and this time they all get away and it's up through the gears before the crucial first turn at Clervaux. Will they all make it around? This time it's Rob Weldon who leads. Daniel Rowbottom goes second. Chris Enderby and Robbie Watts almost find the gravel, but everyone rounds Clervaux safely. Around Hawthorne, into the chicane. This time, just like race one, it's Weldon who leads on the opening lap. Rowbottom again is second. Jeremy Ferguson finds himself third. Toby Newton fourth. So exactly the same top four this time as we had at the beginning of race one. Ferguson was leading before this race was red flagged. So more than anyone, he'll be disappointed he's not back out in front. Oh, and that looked as if it was Woodward. Weldon and Rowbottom edging out a slight advantage over Ferguson and Newton already. And Rowbottom, who of course won his first Biduro race at this circuit a year ago, trying to apply pressure on Weldon. But the one-time mechanic still holding the aces out front and a little bit more. That's a comfortable gap to have on an opening lap of any race. And these two drivers threatening to do in this race what they did earlier, and that of course is dominate proceedings. Approaching the chicane, Weldon, Rowbottom. In third, it's still Ferguson, and Toby Newton's right with him in fourth. The 17-year-old in his second year in this championship, following what was a very impressive debut in 2006. One lap completed, still Weldon and Rowbottom, still 1 and 2. Clervaux is a great corner for a pass under braking. Weldon defends his line. Who can get on the power the quickest? Well, Rowbottom's found a way through and takes over, and judging by the size of that gap, well, I was going to suggest Weldon may have missed a gear, but judging by the advantage opened up by Rowbottom, it suggests there may be a bigger problem. The approach to Tower Bend, and we look for Rob Weldon, and there's no sign as Ferguson is second, but maybe not for long as Newton goes up the inside, and he will take second. A puff of smoke as he locked up, and Ferguson's momentum's carried him back into second. Newton, though, tucks back in. Well, there's the race leader, Rowbottom, and his lead is hovering between 2 and 3 seconds over this tremendous battle for second, involving 6 cars, and headed by Jeremy Ferguson, who took third in race one, his best result of the season so far. And at the moment, he's looking to at least match that performance again in this race. The queuing up behind him, though, it's Newton, Woodward, Allen, Hewitt, Enderby and Watts, all in that order. Into the hairpin for the second time. Another popular passing place as we look at Toby Newton, but he has to settle for third on this occasion. Still another 10 laps or so still to go. Plenty of time to make a move, yet Rowbottom's the one that's still pulling away. Here's the battle for second as they approach, but there could be a change for fourth place as Ross Allen passes Terence Woodward. Both men very much involved at the top of the championship standings. The investigation into what went wrong for the unfortunate Rob Weldon's underway. Daniel Rowbottom approaches the hairpin for the final time, and this will be his third win at Croft. A year ago he took his first ever Radical Biduro win here, and he's got one better this time, and he's made it a double. Ross Allen, who scored no points in race one, will come second and take a very valuable 30 points here in race two. So this is how they finished. Series leader John Hewitt comes 9th, so especially good points for, well, certainly in particular Toby Newton, who finishes third behind Allen and Rowbottom.
Yeah, no, it's a good track. I enjoy it, yeah, it's good.
How was your race out there? Was it pretty simple?
Not as simple as it may seem. It went out, got a good start, and then Rob had a problem. Went round Rob. And I decided to push for a few laps until I couldn't see him in the mirrors any longer, and then just backed it off really. So 75% of the race was done in sort of light cruise. I saw Ross creeping back sort of 4 laps to go, but there wasn't enough time for him to catch, so I didn't need to push really, so it's good.
In the championship, Newton has taken 52 points today and has reduced Hewitt's lead to just 15. Woodward goes third, but Adcock drops to fourth. A disappointing day for him. Just the hairpin to go around, and then we should see the Dunlop Radical Enduro race get underway. A rolling start, 2 classes of course, the Radical SR8s at the front and the SR3s right behind. On the front row, it's Jacob Greaves in car 76. Alongside him is Derek Johnston in car 34. As they hurry their pace, the safety car comes in, and it's going to be an interesting first corner as Richard Ince looks for a piece of the action, but it's Greaves who leads. Johnston second, Ince third, Austin Reynolds is there in car 3. Nick Dove in 71. The leading SR3 looked to be Barry Gates. Thankfully, everyone around Clervaux and Hawthorne, it would seem. Now they wind up the power again as they run down towards Tower, and it's Greaves, a race winner the previous day, who's dictating things out in front. And into the approach to Tower, Greaves, Johnston, Nick Dove and Reynolds looking to go inside Ince, and Barry Gates looking for a cheeky hole as well, and he gets it. Not too good, that one for Ince. Jacob Greaves still pulling away. He's already at Sunny. Derek Johnston's following still, so too Nick Dove in third. Greaves all on his own in this race. He's doing the full race on his own, normally with Tim, of course. So this will be a real test of stamina for the youngster as he goes into the complex. Jacob Greaves slows for the hairpin, around 2 seconds his lead over Derek Johnston, who's now being sniffed by Nick Dove. Get the line right around here and you can sometimes get a better drive than your opponent. And that's what Dove is trying to do as he and Johnston go side by side, and it could be all down to who's the braver of the two on the brakes into Clervaux. Oh, Dove swings inside, but I fancy that Johnston will hold his nerve. And the position as he rounds Clervaux. He knows he's got a real fight on his hands though as they go through Hawthorne. Then it's onto the chicane, and you can visibly see the distance back to fourth place, and we're only on lap 2. Dove not quite close enough to try a manoeuvre at Tower. The one thing these two don't want to do is start tripping each other up and allowing Greaves to break further away at the front, and that is precisely what he's doing. It looks like maybe another second or so he's pulled out on this lap already. So then, let's recap. Greaves leads, second is Johnston, third is Dove in fourth place. It's Austin Reynolds. Then Barry Gates, but he's the first of the SR3s. Sixth, and a surprising position for series leader Richard Ince. In seventh, it's James Saggers, the 2006 Radical Biduro champion, trying his hand at Enduro today, while Paul Thomas sits behind him in eighth. Jacob Greaves momentarily came into view, and will it be Johnston who's second? It is, but Nick Dove won't let go of him. Now, will we see a repeat of last time? Well, Nick Dove certainly fancies his chances as they begin lap 3. Johnston holding his line. Dove, he swung it inside last time. Oh, he's doing it again. But he's not close enough, so he may have to try another tactic if he's to get past Johnston. In 13th, it's Ben Jackson. Behind him, Carl Morris. Ian Gibbons is 15th. Phil Bailey is pushing up. He's moved up 3 places. He's ahead of Richard Stables and Bill Henderson. Still slugging it out for second, Johnston and Dove, but they're losing ground. Hand over fist to race leader Jacob Greaves, who's pulling further and further away. Here's that scrap again for 13th. Jackson still pulling the rest along behind him. The rest being Morris and Gibbons, but you'd fancy Phil Bailey to mix it with them shortly. Now here is Nick Dove, but where is Derek Johnston? Coming up to complete lap 3. Greaves has already gone through, so it's a mystery at present where Derek Johnston's got to. Let's hope we find out shortly. Well, there he is. He's behind Austin Reynolds, who's now third, and Johnston coming under scrutiny by Richard Ince. So a moment somewhere then for Johnston, who was second, and is about to go third again as he gets in front of Reynolds at Clervaux. No room for Ince, and there's a hungry pack of SL3s right on their tail. Oh, Jacob Greaves in pit lane, an 8-second lead at the end of lap 3, but that's gone now. And one of his mechanics pouring bottled water into his SR8. And that stuff, folks, is dearer than petrol. But that's another complaint for another time. New race leader then as we look at what is now second place in the hands of Derek Johnston again. Richard Ince third, Austin Reynolds fourth, Barry Gates fifth, and still the leading SR3. Saggers is there too, so too Steve Jones, who's moving up the order at a rapid pace of knots. And so he should in that SR8. Well, they're evenly spread as we look at second, third, fourth, etc. Nick Dove, the new race leader, but spare a thought for Jacob Greaves. The fastest lap so far, an 8-second lead quite literally evaporated. Second place, as we look, is still Derek Johnston, the former motorcycle racer. Third is Richard Ince. Fourth place belongs at present to Austin Reynolds, and still it's Barry Gates, the leading SR3, in fifth. A good showing from Barry Gates in car 99 so far, but Paul Thomas in car 59 has been posting some good times and is closing in on the leading SR3. Jacob Greaves still playing catch-up, but he's going the right way about it. His 6th lap of the circuit is the fastest of the race so far, but here's the race leader, Nick Dove, passing slower traffic, a 12-second lead out in front. He'll hand over to Phil Abbott at the halfway stage. Out of the car is Barry Gates, and he hands over to Anthony Dunn, no longer leading SL3. As Derek Johnston comes in, Stuart Mosley will take over there. 45 is Colin Noble, the Scotsman doing both stints. He was 9th overall when the pit lane opened for the driver changeovers. In comes Ian Gibbons, his partner Bardwell poised to take control. The car running in around 12th overall and 7th in class. Phil Abbott should be getting away any moment. A great lead built up by Nick Dove in the first stint. It's now up to Abbott to guide the car home. And that's the unfortunate Jacob Greaves. He was leading but forced to pit, and now it's all about damage limitation as he has to try and pick his way through the order. Here's the number 2 car of the championship leaders, Richard Ince and Austin Kinsella. Kinsella doing the second stint. They were in second place. Oh, drama here for Phil Abbott. He was leading at the end of lap 17, but a problem, and he's desperately trying to get the car back on track. An unfortunate turn of events. Nick Dove had done wonderfully in building up an advantage, and it could have all been for nothing as Abbott manages to get the thing fired up once more. Here's the new race leader, Austin Kinsella. A good solid drive by his partner Richard Ince in the first half of this race. 6th on the opening lap. He worked his way through, and in the space of 6 laps was up to 2nd. A position he held until the driver changeover, and now Kinsella is reaping the benefits. The unfortunate incidents to Greaves and Abbott have played their part, but as anyone who's ever turned a steering wheel in anger on a circuit will tell you, that, folks, is racing. Stuart Mosley behind the wheel of car 34, steadily making his way up the order. 8th at the end of lap 17, in which he posted the fastest lap so far. 7th at the end of lap 18, and then 5th at the end of lap 19. Still low, it's Kinsella who leads. Nick Padmore, having taken over from Austin Reynolds, is in 2nd place. 3rd is Anthony Dunn, who's passed Paul Thomas to take over the lead of SR3, while Stuart Mosley has worked himself between Dunn and Thomas and is currently holding 4th. Here's the battle for 5th overall and 2nd in SR3. Paul Thomas with Colin Noble right on his case. The Scotsman is trying to get close. Austin Kinsella still in control. He and Richard Ince, a superb double act all season. Kinsella the slightly more experienced of the two as he prepares to start another lap of Croft. 27 is Michael Jackson, having taken over from Son Ben. And now going nowhere, and there is race leader Austin Kinsella out of Clervaux into Hawthorne. Now, he's not the fastest car out there in terms of lap times. He has a 13-second lead over Stuart Mosley, who's taken over 2nd place from the unfortunate Nick Padmore, who has a throttle problem. And we're now looking at Stuart Mosley, posted the fastest lap of the race on 17, 1 minute 17.724. Kinsella, meanwhile, has yet to break 1 minute 19. So the question is, can he catch Kinsella? Now at around a 2nd a lap, he's not going to do it, but there are a lot of cars out there, and possibly Mosley's only hope is that Kinsella gets stuck behind someone. And there is Kinsella out of Sunny and heading toward the complex. It looks as if it's going to be another win for Kinsella and fellow driver Richard Ince. Not far to go in this race. Disappointment for Phil Abbott in car 70. Bardwell just behind him with a lap or so to go. Just ahead is Cole Morris and Richard Stables. Austin Kinsella begins his last lap. Mosley's bitten into his lead. 9 seconds, 8 seconds, then 7 seconds. But it's not been enough. Indeed, at the end of lap 31, it moved back out to 11. This is now lap 33 as we look at Stuart Mosley. Very talented. Still has the fastest lap of the race. And Kinsella, incidentally, has just done his best time on lap 32. But it's still over a second off the pace of this man, Stuart Mosley, who looks destined to finish this one in 2nd place. Less than half a dozen bends for Austin Kinsella to negotiate, and another healthy points haul is his in the quest to become Radical Enduro champion for 2007. No one has won more races than him this year. That is he and co-driver Richard Ince, of course. 3rd overall, but the leading SL3, and once Anthony Dunn got past Paul Thomas on lap 17, there's been no catching him. The checkered flag is readied, and it's a sight Austin Kinsella and Richard Ince have been very used to seeing this season. And in the end, this has been a very comfortable drive for Kinsella. Mosley a long way back in second place, nowhere to be seen as Kinsella wins at Croft. Confirmation of the result. Third place is Dunn and Gates, but they are the top SR3 crew. Second, Johnston and Mosley, but a win again for Ince and Kinsella.
Richard did a good first stint. He lost a bit of time at the start and then got it back. And we just managed to keep the gap, which was good. So, and after yesterday we had a disastrous day, so it's nice to win today.
We made the conscious decision for Barry to start because yesterday I was squabbling with the SR8 and which was good fun, but it was sort of holding us back. We needed to get a gap from Paul Thomas, who we knew would be quite quick. So Barry took the start, made a fantastic start, drove really well today. It was like night and day from yesterday, and handed over to me, and I was in second place, and all I did was close the gap, and Paul actually made a mistake at the hairpin, so I didn't actually make contact with him, despite what it might look like, and I was away.
This is how the championship looks then, with just 2 more meetings to go after this one, and it's still plenty to play for. It's going to go all to the wire, it would seem. Ince and Kinsella still at the top. Welcome to Brands Hatch for the final Great and British Dunlop Motorsport Festival of 2007. The series has travelled the length and breadth of the British Isles, even into Belgium, but today the titles will be decided here on the Indy circuit. So 2 titles to be won, 2 races to go. The safety car is in. We're with Helen Ray in the SR3 along the Brabham Straight. It's power on and away we go. And it's Derek Johnson who has the inside line, and he should be first into panic. Austin Reynolds in car 3 is second. We're back with Helen Ray, who keeps it tight. Not many gaps opening up, so this first lap, keep it simple. Don't get involved. Keep your nose clean. Druids, and it's Jacob Greaves up in the second, past Reynolds. Nick Dove is fourth. Richard Ince, who's leading the championship, is fifth. And Derek Johnson already beginning to pull away from Jacob Greaves, who in turn is leaving Austin Reynolds behind, and he's under pressure from Nick Dove. But flags have come out around the circuit. A red flag is being waved. Indeed they are, and it's SR3 driver Martin Schleppy who's crashed. Schleppy's car is about to be removed, and part of the tyre wall replaced. We can see now what happens. Schleppy just ahead, and he gets collected by Reholm, the Frenchman. This time we should go, and Johnston in 34 has another good start, but look at Jacob Greaves in car 76 around the outside and up into second place, and determined not to let Johnston get away again as he did last time. Nick Dove passes Reynolds, and Richard Ince and John Stanley are side by side as they round Druids, so it's almost as you were this time around. Oh, Richard Ince has spun. We just saw him facing the wrong way, everyone avoiding action. We're with Helen Ray, and Ian Ford is just, oh, he's on the grass. Oh, this could be nasty. Oh, they've come together, high impact. Thankfully, Helen Ray seems all right. Well, let's look again, and the car on the inside drifts out, forcing Ford onto the grass. He loses grip and spins into the path of Ray. And Greaves is certainly sizing things up, and still Johnston defends his line. He's not letting go of top spot as Greaves continues to harass and harry the race leader. But nothing doing at Graham Hill Bend. Along Cooper Straight they go as they both wind the power on, and Greaves is looking for the inside line. Into Surtees. Oh, and he's got it now. Can he maintain his momentum while he's having a go? And we have a new race leader. Through goes Greaves as Johnston slips back into second place. So Derek Johnston unable to resist Jacob Greaves, who, after a lot of hard work, has found his way through to first, and Johnston may have more trouble on his hands in the shape of Ross Kaiser, who's flying through the field and he's catching the front pair. James Swift has spun between McLaren and Clearwaite and is looking to rejoin. There appears to be no damage to the bodywork, so he's been quite fortunate. Michael Jackson, who was a member of the group The Love Affair, begins to prepare to take over from Sun Ben. Ross Kaiser is really applying the pressure to second place Johnston as they go around Graham Hill Bend. Oh, Johnston sliding off the track. Is this going to hand the title to Ince and Kinsella? Well, here's the race leader, Jacob Greaves, followed by Ross Kaiser, Nick Dove in third. Then it's the SR3s of Rion and Hall who've been lapped. Austin Reynolds is one of the first in. He'll be replaced by Nick Padmore. Meanwhile, a lot of debris is being removed from the front of their SR8. Kinsella is being strapped in. Co-driver Richard Ince has recovered well after his spin early on. Having taken over from Derek Johnston, Stuart Mosley's about to set off. Well, he'll be hoping too soon. 2 is Kinsella, 65 is Jones, 76 Tim Greaves. He's in second place behind Jones. Kinsella is almost a lap down on the front 2. He's 11th. Phil Abbott in car 70 is 3rd, so it's very tight between the top 3, and there's still some way to go in this race. That's Mosley's car. He's had a rear tyre change and the handling has been adjusted, but that could be the end of his challenge for the title. Nick Padmore is also into the pits. We've had 36 laps of this race completed. And there is Steve Jones, still going slowly as he's done for almost a lap of this track. The race leader is pulling over. Why he didn't go down pit lane, I don't know, unless he'd been hoping for a checkered flag. Well, the marshals are trying to draw his attention. Maybe he's not allowed to park there. Tim Greaves then is going to win this race. He was losing around a second a lap to Jones until he retired, but that's forgotten now. Abbott will take second. So Tim Greaves, having taken over from Jacob, wins the penultimate Radical Enduro race of the 2007 campaign. Results time and Stuart Mosley's retirement means Austin Kinsella and Richard Ince didn't need 4th place to confirm the championship title. The race is won though by Jacob and Tim Greaves. Lights are about to go out, and they do, and it's a great start from row 2 by Terence Woodward. Rob Weldon is sluggish and is past, but it's Ross Allen who will lead into Paddock Hill Bend. We ride with Chris Enderby, he's mid-pack, and this is where the world just drops away, especially at speed, in one of these super quick SR4 sports cars. Into Druids, it's still Allen, but Woodward is being muscled out of second place by Toby Newton, who's fighting for the title, of course, and his quest for the crown is helped by the fact championship leader Hewitt is down in around 8th place. And there is Hewitt just ahead of Chris Enderby. They're following Jeremy Ferguson and Robbie Watts as everybody sorts themselves out on this opening lap, and it could get a little too hot at times if some of these drivers aren't careful. Well, we're coming up to complete 9 laps. Still no change in the order, with Allen having posted the best lap time so far. But here comes Weldon, and looking at Newton's line, I think he's fed up with being hassled by him and maybe wants a tow toward the race leader. Let Weldon do all the hard work and drag Allen back toward them. That could well be the plan. Well, Allen is certainly pulling away as they head down Graham Hill. Oh, and a spin! Weldon spins, thankfully ends up pointing the right way, but he's dropped back to 3rd. The view from Chris Enderby's SR4 as we round Paddock Hill Bend, and the track drops away. It looks like Woodward and Watts ahead as we approach Druids. So around we go. Oh, Enderby starts to spin. That could have been a nudge from behind. Well, Hewitt was behind him. That was Ferguson and Adcock we saw go through. Enderby should be okay as he attempts to turn the car around. A shake of the head from Enderby. He's lost a lot of time in a number of places, but he just has to concentrate now and get back into the zone and forget what has happened. There's a replay of what happened. Enderby, the 3rd car in the group, and Hewitt with the red bodywork just went into the back of him, which is enough to cause a spin. Hard to say whether it was deliberate, as they were all bunched tightly together. Race leader Ross Allen, a 4-second lead over Toby Newton, and Newton is being pursued again by Weldon. Back with Enderby looking to make up lost ground as he negotiates the never-ending bend. One of his best results of the year came at Spa-Francorchamps in June when he picked up 22 of his 79 championship points that he scored this year, and that was Nick Adcock, who's just gone past. Ross Allen is going to take yet another victory in this year's championship. It's his 4th of the campaign. He did have an outside chance of the title, but despite this win, that has now gone. Toby Newton finishes 3rd and John Hewitt 6th, and that means Hewitt has a 3-point advantage going into the last race. Rob Weldon takes 2nd, but it's Ross Allen on top.
Yeah, it was okay. They were all quite close behind me, but then Rob and Toby looked like they had a bit of a coming together, which gave me a few extra seconds lead. So that was what I needed, really.
One title has been won and one more to go. And we're on board with Steve Jones now. That is Barry Gates that's pulling off. He's got his hand up and going in, and the safety car goes in, so we're going to start racing. And that's going to be very, very interesting because Barry Gates is leading this championship, and this is the last Dunlop Radical Enduro race of the year. And it's going to be Derek Johnson who's going to lead us into turn one. It is. Oh, Austin Reynolds gets swallowed up. Richard Ince goes up into second place. And I think it was Jacob Greaves who went third. We're on board with number 65, Steve Jones, who of course had all that misfortune in race one, who was leading early on. So too was Derek Johnson. He was leading race one. And in the end, had to settle. Oh, now then. Steve Jones is really struggling as he goes around Graham Hill Bend. And I think that's going to be the end of his challenge in this race. Here comes Derek Johnson. He's going to lead Richard Ince across the line. Jacob Greaves is third. Barry Gates did indeed start from pit lane. So the SR8 Championship has been sorted. Richard Ince and Austin Kinsella. And now then, Steve Jones is on a move again into Paddock Hill. So maybe whatever problems he was having have now been ironed out as he goes down Paddock Hill and up towards Druids. Jacob Greaves right on the case of Derek Johnston. Oh, that looks as if it's the SR3 title decided. Steve Jones around Graham Hill. Past the paddock, along the Cooper Straight into Surtees. Really tight and tricky through here. Then it's Halewood. So Richard Ince is coming under pressure from Nick Dove. And Nick Dove goes through up into third place. And they're racing for the pleasure of it this time around. There's no title at stake, but Derek Johnson will want to make up for race one. Jacob Greaves is going to swing through. Is he at Graham Hill Bend? And it is. Jacob Greaves goes through and he takes over the lead. So it's Greaves who leads. Johnson is second. Nick Dove is third. And here come the SR3 cars. Number 5 is James Saggers. Over the line, Johnston, followed by Ince, of course. They'll be swapping over soon. Derek Johnson will hand over to Stuart Mosley. Richard Ince will hand over to Austin Kinsella. Steve Jones will hand over to Ross Kaiser. But around Clearways, it doesn't sound too clever, that SR8, and I think that's it for Steve Jones. Well, he's had a go, but disappointment at the end. Shared the car with David Leslie, the touring car driver, throughout the year. But it's a premature end to his 2007 campaign. 39 is Tom Ashton, 38 Jean-Louis Rion, the Frenchman. Disappointment then for Jones and Kaiser. 2 DNFs today, and it's just not been their weekend here at Brands Hatch. Now then, James Harrison in the SR3, giving it to Austin Reynolds in the SR8. James Harrison, Ginetta champion last year, and he's really gone well in the SR3 class of the Dunlop Radical Enduro Championship this year. Reynolds back on the power, back at Paddock Hill. Oh dear, some interesting lines. Stuart Mosley is ready to take over from Derek Johnston. So Stuart Mosley goes back out then. 66, that's Jeff Collier and Wayne Douglas now preparing to get behind the wheel of their SR3. 46 is James Harrison, solo drive for him today here at Brands Hatch. Away goes Tim Greaves. Well, they've won the championship and they're celebrating by sticking it in the gravel. Oh, another one's gone in as well. That is, I think, Ian Simmons. It is Ian Simmons having taken over from Roger Bromley, so the safety car has come out. So Barry Gates and Anthony Dunn, that's their race over, but they have secured the SR3 championship. So we're back on again, and it's Tim Greaves who leads this time. And it looks like it's going to be car number 70. That is Phil Abbott, who's in second place. So into Druids then. Oh, Stuart Mosley's on a real charge as well. He's gone up the inside of James Harrison. And around he goes. I think that's Paul Thomas that's in there as well. But down Graham Hill Bend they come. And just look at number 34, Stuart Mosley. He's got Phil Abbott in his sights. Oh, and that could be, I think, number 3. It is. It's Nick Padmore. Mosley all over Greaves like the proverbial rash. Oh, he goes through and he's going to take another car, one of the SL3s as well by the looks of it. So Stuart Mosley really flying. He was superb on the last lap at Pembrey a fortnight ago, and he's superb here in this race as well at Brands Hatch, the final meeting of the year. Next year, of course, it looks like Enduro and Biduro will be combining together. He's ahead of Greaves, and there is the man in third place, Phil Abbott. That looks like James Saggers, who's getting some attention. It's taking a long time in there. And there is definitely something flapping on the side of Paul Thomas's SR3. Looks as if it could be tape. As through goes Daniel Rowbottom in car 64. So Paul Thomas, and you can see Kinsella really motoring, really on a charge, and it looks like he's going to move up another position as he goes past number 70, Phil Abbott. So Austin Kinsella celebrating becoming champions in 2007 in the right fashion. Don't know if he's going to be close enough to Stuart Mosley to mount a serious challenge though. So Stuart Mosley wins then the final Enduro race of 2007. This is how it panned out. Fourth place for Phil Dove ahead of John Stanley and James Swift. Kinsella in third, Greaves in second, but Mosley and Johnson on top.
Well, I guess I suppose you know the circuit quite well, really, and it was just a case of putting into practice. You know, the cars run well all weekend, so it's just a case of trying to capitalise on that, really.
This is how the championship finishes overall then. The top SR3 crew, Anthony Dunn and Barry Gates are fourth overall. Derek Johnson is third, but it's Ince and Kinsella who are champions.
You know, we clinched the Enduro Championship today, so that's what we set out to achieve. So we've done it. So we're not the quickest car today, but we just managed to do enough.
And they've done enough all season. Consistency has been their key, consistently winning. Congratulations to Ince and Kinsella. Second Biduro race of the day, and it's a title decider. It's John Hewitt versus Toby Newton. And we're on board with John Hewitt. He's had a great season. Oh, and he's had a good start. Not a good one from Terence Woodward. Oh, and that's Toby Newton just in front. Oh, Hewitt and Newton make contact, only slightly. And Hewitt, oh, he's going to be passed by Woodward, who's recovered superbly after a sluggish start. Newton is going to be third, but into the lead. Who else? Number 85. Ross Allen ahead of Weldon. Oh, and Newton's third, Woodward is fourth, and Hewitt is down in fifth place. Yes, he is. Woodward has the slow for Toby Newton. Remember, it's Newton versus Hewitt for the championship, and we're on board with John Hewitt, and he's got to really get ahead of Toby Newton. Weldon's in there, of course, in second place. He won't be scoring any points, remember that. So in effect, Weldon, even though he's fifth on the track, he's fourth in terms of championship points. 77 is Robbie Watts, and 46 is Jeremy Ferguson as they come to complete another lap. And they approach, in fact, it's John Hewitt's just in front of them as they go into Paddock Hill Bend, fly down round there. And I think that was Nick Adcock in car number 11 that's just behind them as well. So around Druids they go, and John Hewitt really needs to shake this lot off and get involved with the likes of Toby Newton, and we're on board with John Hewitt now as we go around Graham Hill Bend and along the Cooper Straight towards Surtees. And Hewitt has got to get closer to Toby Newton, otherwise it's going to be Toby Newton who will be crowned champion. Toby Newton, a former Ginetta driver, is over the line, goes number 85, our race leader Ross Allen. Toby Newton, Terence Woodward in fourth place. Woodward has been involved in the championship, but he's just not had the consistency and the good fortune to be involved at the top. 46, Jeremy Ferguson, who's come on really strong in the second part of the season. Newton, Woodward and Hewitt And behind Hewitt is number 77, Robbie Watts, and 46, Jeremy Ferguson. Down Graham Hill, and John Hewitt just can't shake these guys off, and he just can't get close enough to the men in front of him. Number 11 is Nick Adcock, who's had his moments this year, and you can see the gap that John Hewitt is just losing out. Fourth place car is Terence Woodward, third is Toby Newton, and John Hewitt, I think, will be praying that maybe Terence Woodward could get in front. Oh, and that, I think, was Weldon, who was just back on the track. It was Rob Weldon in second place behind Ross Allen. These two are posting fastest laps like they're going out of fashion. So Ross Allen still leading from Weldon. And here they come. And Newton in third place. And if he stays in third place and Hewitt stays fifth, then it will be Newton's championship. We're on board with John Hewitt. And something dramatic has got to happen between now and the checkered flag for John Hewitt to win the championship. He's led for most of the season. It looks as if he's going to be pipped at the last. Across the line goes, it is number 85, Ross Allen. Rob Weldon is second, but here comes the new champion for 2007 in third place, Toby Newton. Results time then, and John Hewitt in fifth place, not good enough behind Terence Woodward. Toby Newton delighted in third, Rob Weldon second, and Ross Allen on top.
It was a really hard race. Rob was really close behind all the way, and the car was going a lot better than the first race, but Rob was all over the back of me as well.
A late charge then from Ross Allen, but it wasn't good enough in terms of the championship. He finishes third behind John Hewitt, who's led all year, but it's Toby Newton who's the champ.
Yeah, fantastic. It was really quite close. We worked out the points before, and hopefully we've won it. But yeah, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the team, Dad especially, all my sponsors, Gil Brown. It's been a mega year. We've had our ups and downs, but in the end we've made it count, and hopefully we should have won it.
The third step of the podium, and Toby Newton on the top step of the overall standings. A great year in the Dunlop Radical Biduro Championship.